This example is meant to practice if statements, elif, else's, and so on. And what it is going to be is we're going to write some code that takes the date as a month and a day as numerical values. So today is November 6th, so we'll have month equals 11 and day equals 6. And then we will simply find out what the next day is. So tomorrow would be November 7th, but if today had been November 30th, tomorrow would be December 1st. So we would have to know when to increment the day, when to increment the month, and so on and so forth. So we are going to go through how to do this in this example. So what we have to do, we're going to ignore the whole leap year thing. We're going to have to say if month is 2 and day is 28. If this happens, then we're just going to go ahead and assign things to March 1st. So month, day equals, and then the month will be 3, and the day will be 1. So if the month is 2, day is 28, then the next date is March 3rd. The way that's more readable, month equals 3, day equals 1. We're resetting it to March 3rd. I commented out that other one, a perfectly valid way to assign two variables, comma separate them, as long as they're in the right spots. You don't have to do that. Eventually you should recognize it, but you don't have to recognize that right now. We just want to get this whole if statement thing. So we still have other weird scenarios to deal with. We next have to deal with what happens if the day is 30 and that day is at the end of the month. So this is a much more complex if statement. So if the day is equal to 30 and it's a 30-day month, then we want to move to the next month. September, so glad to have you here, Ash. April, 4, that's the 4th month. June is the 6th month. Oh, commas aren't good. Panic. Sorry. November. Ooh, Christmas is closer. So I should do an elif because eventually I just want to get to the point where it's not any of the weird scenarios and I just want to increment the day by 1. If the day is the 30th, then it's the month is one of these things. So it has to be an or linking the month because it just has to be one of these months, and the day has to equal 30. So this has to be true for this if to pass, and one of these has to be true. That's why they're linked with an or. If this case happens, we're at the end of the month. So month equals month plus 1. Or I'm going to say month plus equals 1 to build on, we saw this last class where I can say month plus equals 1, and that is the same thing as saying month equals month plus 1. It is a shortcut for doing this addition. So month plus equals 1 because we're rolling over to the next month, and then the day gets assigned to 1. So again, first is obviously the first day of the next month. Next, we want to do 31-day ones. There's one slight hiccup with that, and that's that we can't just add 1 to the month if it happens to be December 31st. If day equals elif day is 31, I'm going to break this into 2 scenarios. So I'm starting a new if statement here. If month is December, we're going to do month equals 1. What I'm doing is I'm saying, yes, let's consider the 31-day months. If the day is equal to 31, then we would want to normally just change the day to the 1st, and then we would want to increment the month, right? We would want to do the same thing as we're doing up here. Vertical spaces won't matter, so we would want to follow essentially this format. The first thing that we did was okay, we're going to reset day to 1 because the next day is going to be the 1st of some month. If we are at a 31, obviously we can't go to a 32nd. There's no 32nd of any month. So we're going to have to go to the 1st of the month. And normally we could just increment the month to just, if it's January 31st, we would just say, well, the month is 1, we add 1 to it. But we can't do that for December. So December is a special case, and the month doesn't increase by 1. It just rolls to the new year. Once we've dealt with December, we can say else month plus equals 1. Anyway, we want to know the next day, so that's why it's important, because we want to increment it. So we're saying, okay, if it's February 28th and we want to know the next day, we're going to just say, well, the next day is March 1st. And then we're saying, okay, if the day is 30 and it's one of those 30-day months, then we want to change it to the next month and the first of that month. So if it's, September 30th, we want to go to November 1st. No, we want to go to October 1st. Oh my gosh. I'm glad you guys understand the calendar. Otherwise, I'd be confusing you. Now here, this one's different because if we have 31-day months, we have 2 situations. No matter what, 31-day month, the next day is going to be the first of some month. But if that month is December, we have to go to January. So I have to set month to 1. Otherwise, if it's not December, we can just increment the month. So this if statement, you'll notice it's completely indented inside of here. It's just its own independent thing, right? It's not impacting the if. It's not in line with these other ifs. This else right here does not apply to all of these things above. We want to think of this if statement as its own little self-contained module. And since it's indented, it's not affected by this bigger if statement that we have on the outside. And this is called a nested if statement. So then we've dealt with the 31-day thing. And I want to point out that I didn't have to list out all of the months here. I didn't have to say else if month is equal to 1 or 3 or any of those. Because the only time we'd ever get to 31 days, like the only time we'd have 31 days is if it's a valid date. Because if we get to 30 and it's one of these months, it's not going to increment to 31. It's just going to roll over to the next month. So we don't have to list all of these things out. And so on purpose, I put them in this order where I put the 30s first and then list out all the months, so that when we did 31, we didn't have to go through a headache of listing everything. So then we have this here. And then since we have all these elifs, and we don't just have a bunch of if statements, we can just have an else. We've taken care of all of the situations where we hit the end of the month. Otherwise, our dates are going to be not at the end of the month. And what we can do is we can just say day plus equals 1. And it'll go through here. It's like, nope, it's not the 28th, it's not the 30th, it's not the 31st. Goes through all of that, and it says, okay, well, we're still within bounds. We're not at the end of the month. So just change it to 7. So the month will still be 11, and the day will increment to 7. So this will give us here, I'll put it all on one screen, or as much as possible. So this will give us, a bunch of if statements that allow us to make the decision to figure out the next date.